ladies, I would say, find out what your man wants. That is important. Every man may be
Mm,
different. For him, he just may want when he comes home, it could be just, how was your day? When you want to go for a walk together, or can I go fishing with you? Whatever the thing may be, But for
yes.
me, one example, Coach Cass, is just that affirmation that, okay, let's go.
Hey, family, welcome to another episode of The Love Lens. Oh, my goodness. We are so excited to come back to you. Ooh, I'm Coach Cass. I'm here to share with you an amazing guest that I have so much respect for. But before I do that, I want you to take a moment to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, get all the notifications, because we have a new episode dropping each and every week. And our main focus is to help you really shift your view on love. One thing I know is that most of our parents didn't really teach us how to do this love thing. And I hand select guests to come in to pour into you in different aspects of your life. But at the end of the day, it really does create that base. I really believe that when love is at the base, everything else falls in place. So I'm Coach Cass, America's go-to love doctor, and I'm so excited to share with you a friend of mine, Ramon Ray. The Rundown with Ramon, and he is also the publisher of the zoneofgenius.com. Zoneofgenius.com. Help me to welcome Brother Ramon. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing amazing, Coach Cass. Good to be here. Well, I feel like I've been elevated today, knowing your pedigree and who you serve. It's an honor to be here to you, Coach Cass, and to the listeners of your podcast and of your show. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Listen, I am excited, Ramon. So let's get
Me
into it.
too.
I'd love to hear about your story, Zone of Genius. One thing I know in working with many professional women, well, we won't even get into that, right? So we often are told that we need to do more, right? We need to have more, we need to be more. But often individuals will walk around with this imposter syndrome. And so I feel like you kind of command with your brand, Zone of Genius, that many people may not feel like they even live up to that, even though they might be breaking glass ceilings and doing all of the things. So I'd love to hear a piece of your story.
Sure, I'll tell you my story, and then I want to also touch. You said something about we feel we have to do all the things. So remind me to come back to that if I may. But the nutshell of who Ramon Ray is today: I have two adult children, married 30 years. My wife's name is Ronnie. I live in the vacation capital of the world. All of you know where it is. Where? No, no, New Jersey. In case you didn't know, vacation capital of the world.
I'll say what?
But how I got to be who I am today, Coach Cass, publisher of zoneofgenius.com, an entrepreneur who started a few companies, sold a few companies, grew up in an amazing home, was born in the Midwest. My parents are ministers. I'm a preacher's kid. Went through the usual things of life, high school and middle school and all the things. And my parents were called to full-time ministry. So I moved around a little bit in the Northeast, between Brooklyn, between Maryland, between Ohio when I was a child, under their care. Fast forward a few years, I got my first job out of high school, pre-college at the United Nations. I shouldn't say out of high school. Pre-college. I started college, took a gap year. So I worked at the United Nations. That's a big jump for many years, over 10 years.
That's really
Until
cool.
it is really cool until somebody who wasn't so cool crossed my path, who was jealous of me. And they made it difficult for me, Coach Cass. And I was fired from the United Nations. And here I am today. There's a lot in between there. I can unpack as much as you want, but United Nations, the taste of entrepreneurship at the United Nations, building blogs, and the story moves me to today. So that's the summary of it, the quick summary.
Okay, so then what is Zone of Genius? Like,
Sure,
what can you explain? What is that? What does that
sure.
mean? So you started blogs and now you're here, but what is it? Can you share with us?
Yeah. There was a friend of mine, Coach Cass, and I'd like to know if you have a friend like this. His name is Joel, the real guy. His name is Joel.
Uh-huh.
He's been struggling academically, and I would say this in front of him as he's right next door to me. He's a little younger than me. He's like my little brother. He's married now too. He's about 30-something years old, 40-something
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. And he struggled academically. Was never he was a smart guy, but like in school on paper wasn't so great. Just a few years ago, Coach Cass, he was playing bass guitar in a church, at his church that I was visiting him at. On stage, lights were shining on him. Literally, this is not one of those made-up stories. Literally, I was like, that brother right there is in his zone of genius. No matter all he's gone through, his father passed away too. He was a co-minister with my own father. His father died. I said, that guy's in his zone. Coach Cass, he's singing, leading choir, playing bass, telling the pianist to drop down a key. I'm like, my man.
My man, my
And
man.
yes, and that's kind of when I was like, he's in his zone of genius. So I'm sure there was a few background things, maybe I had conversations, but I went to a domain site, bought the domain, zoneofgenius.com, and then taking my experience going backwards now of building blogs. I started several, smallbiztechnology.com, sold it, smarthustle.com, sold it, Small Business Summit, sold it, zoneofgenius.com, building it, and we'll see what happens next.
That is so exciting, right?
Yes,
So,
it is.
okay, so the multi-talented. So moving into that imposter syndrome where
Yeah.
people feel like they're doing all the things, but really not excelling in any of them. You told me to come back to that.
Please. There's a lady in my church. Her name is CG, Coach Cass. She's a quiet, like 3 feet tall. I'm exaggerating short people. I don't know if she is, but,
3 feet
so
tall,
give me
what?
grace, ladies. Give me grace. 4 feet something, whatever whatever a quote unquote short stature. I say that in love, everybody. I say that in love. And do you know what she does, Coach Cass? She after church, she's many multi-talented, but the one thing is she's after church standing by the exit door, greeting each and every one of us as we're going out, shaking hands. The 1 or 2 times she hasn't been there, I've missed her being there. That's an example, one small example of somebody who's in their zone of genius. And I'll say one more example, then I'll say one more thing if I may. And another lady I know, she happens to, and I know everybody in your in the community may not be Christians, but she prays quite a bit. That's all she does. Quiet lady, she prays. So what I'm getting at, everybody may not be like Coach Cass and Ramon, extrovert and out there and, out there as I am. But your zone of genius is, what do you love doing? What do you do best that other people say, this is Coach Cass, this is Ramon Ray, and professionally speaking, what can you get paid to do? If you can wrap those 3 things together, think of Steve Harvey, think of other LeBron James athletes, you're in your zone of genius as Ramon Ray defines it.
Wow. I really love that. That kind of, I feel like I should put some glitter here on the screen. It's kind of like a little starburst on top of that Disney castle. It sounds really good. So what do I love to do? And then other people recognize you do well at, and then you could actually make money from.
That's right. That's right. Because I'm sure you know people, Coach Cass, who I love to sing.
Yeah.
But every time I sing, they exit the mall. People leave the mall and run out, and I'm the only one there. In my house, my kids run out the house when I sing. That means, maybe you should sing. Or whatever the example may be, or I'm really funny. I'm a comedian. And nobody's quite laughing when you're saying it. So
that
I know you
reminds me
love
of those
to do
people on American Idol, like their families lied to them and then they got all the way up to the judge and it's like, nobody told, like your mama said you was a sing your whole life. What?
That's right. Exactly.
Nice. But you know what that helps me with? So recently I've kind of gotten into the travel game, right? And literally I love to travel. It's a thing. I love to travel and I love to create experiences where people just enjoy themselves and connect. So, over the last couple years and recently we just added Ultimate Couples Retreat for happy couples, right? And it's just like literally all I've been doing is, what do I love?
That's right.
And then what do people say I do good at? And then now adding on an experiential tax, right? So I love that.
That's it.
I really love that. Okay, so now coming over to the love arena,
Sure.
right, my brother Ramon. I feel like this absolutely applies. So what do you feel like is coming up for you, and then I'll tell you what's coming up for me.
Okay. When I have to think of zone of genius and love, I think that what do I thrive in doing best? What do other people, my other love interests, say that I do? And what can I get paid? Y'all put paid wherever you want. What I'm doing it. I don't know if that's where you're going, but that's where I'm going. Is one who is a married man, is one who has 2 adult children, whose daughter's getting married soon, whose son's been married for 4 years. That's what I think of, Coach Cass. We want to thrive in what we do and build up relationships, as you do, speaking to wanted women all the time. That's what I would say from my perspective. But I'd love to know what was on your mind. I'm curious now.
So I feel like it applies in the way of, there's a joy is what I'm hearing. And
Yes.
so often I speak to professional women day in and day out, and then they're like, "Oh, should it be this guy or this guy?" But
Mhm.
but I'm not hearing any joy. I'm not hearing that you're loving this this time with this person, but just because they might be giving you some attention, you choose them. But for what I'm hearing, it's like, do what you love. So are you loving this
That's right.
experience with this person, right? And then are they able to also pour into you? Like, are you able to be a better you with them around? And then together, can y'all, the payment is really the time that you're experiencing. Like, do you feel like you're in a zone of genius so you can bounce ideas, or maybe they can just help spark ideas? You know, not everybody's on the same wavelength
Mm.
intellectually. I understand that, but I don't want you to dim your light, right? And so
Right.
what I'm hearing is when you're operating in your zone of genius, it's like there's a light shining from you. Just like when I saw you on that big stage not too long ago in Atlanta, right? 1,000 people in the room, and you
Yeah.
lit up that stage. There's that light that comes off of you. So is that light still there when you're with your person, is what
Mhm.
I'm really hearing.
Coach Cass, I love that. When I think, I'll tell you a secret. You can't tell nobody though. I'm gonna tell you a secret of my daughter. She's getting married soon. And I asked her repeatedly, eventually to Coach Cash, she said, Dad, can you stop asking me this? Like, do I still like this guy? And I guess I should. The wedding's gonna be in a short amount of time. But you know, that's daddy and me. But two or three things let me know, as it were, if I'm tracking with you, Coach Cass, that she's in her zone of genius. One, are you still talking to this guy like 10 million hours a day? Yeah, we still are. Check mark. She is a strong woman, Coach Cass, and you can help me
Mm,
define what that means. But I think you understand what I'm trying to say from my perspective.
yeah.
Strong woman, you know, in my house at least, right, living with me. Coach Cass, when she's with him, she's still a strong woman, I believe, but her attitude changes with him because
Ooh.
he's a quiet person. But I've seen him just touch her on the leg, and Charity just in a good way,
Yeah.
how she changes. So my point is, that's what I'm seeing, that they're together in their zone of genius. To your point, she's checking the boxes of he clearly is making her feel amazing and great because I'm watching my daughter with him. She's different than how she is with me. And then number two, she still enjoys being with him. She still enjoys, you know, when they're preparing for the wedding and all that. If that's helpful. So yes, I think exactly what you're saying is spot on.
I love that. So, you know, a lot of women in my community are strong, right?
Hmm.
They strong. And it's hard to put your superwoman cape down sometimes. I think it really does you need the right person by your side. So, Ramon, there's always a question that women want to know. I'm pretty sure you've been asked this question before. How did you know your wife was the one?
Mm-hmm. Two or three things. I think I knew she was the one for me. And by the way, I must say her name is Ronnie. We've been married 30 years. And even with her ups and downs and me being an idiot, I say again, this in a fun way, everybody. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say. Could be always a better husband. She's such a level-headed rock of a woman, a stabilizing force. So how I knew she was the one, really, especially 30 years ago, we just spent so much time together and loved it. And it was just a natural evolution. There was no thinking. It was like, I love being with her. She's my best friend. She knows everything about me. We have a great time together. We have a fast laugh together. She's the one for me. And thank God I lucked right, or blessed right. So that's how I know she's the one for me. And if I can add one more thing, Coach Cass, may I do that?
Yeah.
One more thing I want to add, going back to something you had said about, is that the aspect of zone of genius and things of this nature, is that my wife is a strong woman too. We've had listened to videotapes and probably listened to some of you about it. A strong woman. But what I'm trying to get as an example for the ladies, if I may, and Coach Cass, if this comes out wrong, Coach Cass, you got to cover me. You got to help me say it
I
right.
got you. I got you.
Okay. You're a strong woman. You can do the door by yourself. You can do this by yourself. You can pay it by yourself. With a different man, meaning if your man matches that, but for me, I like to treat my lady. It just makes me feel, I don't know, maybe, and you can explain, maybe that's how God made me, whatever. This is your expertise, Coach Cass. I like to hold the door for her. So she would be like, I got it. I'd be like, damn, God, what am I here for? Like, let me. But you gotta sometimes allow it in the same way. Conversely, just yesterday, my wife saved a chocolate donut for me. I
Ooh.
wasn't going to take it, Coach Cass. But somebody said, "Oh, Ronnie knows Ramon likes this." She said, "Put it aside for Ramon." I had to immediately forget the dieting and all this kind of stuff and say, "Oh, if Ronnie did it, thank you, Ronnie. Let me eat that donut." You get what I'm trying to say? Both kind
Yeah.
of allowing the other to serve, if that
Mm.
makes sense. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, service is huge. So, okay, so that's genius. Look, she's doing for you, you're doing for her. Listen. Andy was joking with me yesterday. We went to see the accountant, right? And Andy says, I need to teach a class. It's how do you get a man to pay for everything? I say, you know what? I say, Andy, I'm not that girl. I don't want women out here just eating men up. He's like, but you're that one. I'm paying for
Yes. It's a
everything. I
compliment.
said, I love you, dear. I love you.
Yes, it's a compliment.
Right. So the fact that you said you enjoy treating your lady, and I feel like Andy's of the same pedigree. Like you want to do
Yes.
for your spouse. Are you someone that goes to all the conferences? You get your CUs for your job. You're always up leveling in personal development. I'm going to tell you one thing. You need your CEUs in love. Join me for Wanted Woman Live, the ultimate non-conference, unconference experience, 3 days in sunny South Florida this fall. This is an experience where women come together from all over the country to be able to be poured into. All around love. How do you show up in love? How do you receive love? How do you just have fun with love? Join the sisterhood, an amazing experience created and curated just for you, the professional woman that desires more. Click the link below, wantedwomanlive.com. So when we're talking about operating your zone of genius, I know like in relationship, there's so many ebbs and flows. And so as a man who operates in his zone of genius, like what would you say, what does support look like for you? Because I know for my ladies, we're strong. We got things going on. It's like for some of them, they kind of want men to fall in line because many of my women, they're older, right? So 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? I want to say my most mature client is 78, right? So when we're talking about setting your ways and doing things a certain way, like how does that work for relationship and being able to both operate in your zone of genius?
Yeah, that is so powerful. Every relationship, of course, is going to be different, but I can say for me, and maybe I represent many men, but Coach Cass will tell us right now because this is her expertise, is I think the aspect of a good word. Men, in some ways, are like good little dogs. Good. That word can be negative, but we're like good little dogs, I think, in some way. So me doing something, and my wife is like, oh, dang, did you just clean the bathroom? Or like, wow, is that floor vacuumed? I'm like, yes, it is. Like I won the lottery. It just feels great. Maybe it's that little boy in us. Maybe it's just Ramon, Coach Cass, that wants the affirmation. But that's the kind of thing for me, at least. And maybe it's a small thing, that cheering person, that because there's nobody else that can do it like your woman. Or if we're talking about kids, nobody else can do it like a parent. So I think for me, that's one thing. I don't need the money, don't need a lot of things. But also, ladies, I would say, find out what your man wants. That is important. Every man may be different. For him, he just may want when he comes home, it could be just, how was your day? When you want to go for a walk together, or can I go fishing with you? Whatever the thing may be, But for me, one example, Coach Cass, is just that affirmation that, okay, let's go. All day long, I'm ready to jump through a wall and do somersaults for her.
Listen, I think just about every man, even though they might identify different modes of love, love languages, things of that sort, just about every single man I've come across would love a cheerleader, someone in their corner that hypes them up, that congratulates them, that says thank you, that recognizes the small things. One of the things that we often talk about at home is just when you look at all the male sports, there really isn't many. There are not many without cheerleaders, right? Like the male sports, just about all of them have cheerleaders. It's just like men, there's something that happens for men to be cheered on. Like they want somebody in their corner. So I identify with you, Ramon, as saying the truth. Like there's something to having someone excited for anything that you do.
Yeah. And you notice that in sports itself, man to man as well, you notice when the athletes get off the court, get off the field, there's that it's a different cheering than the ladies can do it. Only ladies can, but yet you're right, exactly what you just did. It's that, we got to be masculine men here, but it's that chest hit. Even the baseball players, I don't know if football guys do it, slap on the butt, all that stuff is a very masculine type of, you got it, and that's important. That's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, this is good. So what do you see as a major problem in society today with folks operating in their genius? Like What is getting in the way?
Yeah, I think one thing I see, and again, not talking about in direct relationships now, but I think that maybe men and women today in modern days or in recent year or two or three just don't know how to speak to each other and are a little afraid. That's one thing I think. I'm on the train because I've been not burned is the wrong word, but I'm sure you identify with this, or understand what I'm saying. I'm on the train and chivalristically me, like, oh, lady came in, she got her heels on her bag, and maybe she's a little tired. Miss, would you like? I said, no, I got it. Oh, dang, shoot. I feel like an idiot, or I'm going down the hall, ladies coming, with a big box or something I'm seeing, and I run back and would you like me to get it? And she may have it. That's okay, ladies. You don't have to always say yes to a guy, but you get the principle I'm trying to get. And I think in society, that's where there's a bit of then confusion. She came up with her hair all nice or with the scarf. Is it okay if I say, oh, that scarf looks good on you? Or like, no, oh, let me just pretend I don't see her scarf. So those kind of things, I think, talking about, especially in a non-spousal, non-relationship, but just overall ladies and men, how do we communicate with ladies? Am I totally differential? Do I just sit and do nothing, or can I even speak? I think there's that issue because some guys are not so good guys.
Oh, that's tough. It's tough out here. So one thing I know is that many of the women listening in are business minded, trying to break glass ceilings. So now, what do you feel in terms of business, in terms of marketing, in terms of small businesses, in terms of your repertoire? Like, what is holding individuals back from breaking into their zone of genius? So I see it with not seceding or not accepting in terms of love, but now when it comes over to business, what would you say is holding them back?
Yeah, a few things, Coach Castle, especially talking about women and men. And you
Yeah.
know the numbers better than me. I've talked to a number of ladies, and they have said there are real professional issues with men who see some women or many women as less than. That's a real thing. I'm a guy, so I don't know, I've never been a woman. So I didn't realize that was a real thing. I asked several women I trust, could have asked you, and they're like, yeah, Ramon, in my 40 years, 30 years, 20 years of being in career, I've come across many men who are negative. I didn't realize it. That's a real thing. And so, ladies, one, I apologize to you for the men in your life who've been not good men. That's wrong. So that's one. Number two, though, please don't let that stop you from working with the good men. Don't let that stop you and have you miss opportunities of working with a Ramon and millions of others who are good men and who are trying our best to serve in the right way. That's number two. And two and a half, Coach Cass, would be really, you got to move forward and let things go. And I'll say one more thing that come to mind. Find an ally. This doesn't mean in a bad way, but I'll give an example. Ladies coming to church, whatever it may be, her slippers showing or something a little personal. I don't mind telling any lady, I would help anybody. But, depending on who it was, I may tell another woman, hey, listen, could you just walk quietly over to Mary and just help her out with her strap or something like that? I still helped, but I made the other person feel comfortable. So ladies, maybe if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say, Coach Cass, is that
Yeah.
maybe find a male ally, not the old example, I had to have my husband come with me just to get line of credit. Sometimes women have done that, but I don't mean that. I just mean you got to work with what you have. And you all that in a bag of chips. You see Roger over there, he's always cheering you. Yo, Roger, I'm going to give this idea at the meeting. What do you think? Want to back me up on that, Roger? Just to get forward what you need done. So I'm not saying something negative, with the system and abuse and all that's wrong. But in the same example I gave, sometimes I'll call another lady to help me with another lady. It's okay to call another man to help with the issue you may be having.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so now dynamics of the workplace, right? Men and women. So I like the fact that you're like, okay, I'll call on Roger to help me back this thing up. So now when you're talking about moving up in a corporate environment and you want to get to the next level, what do you think are some of the keys in order to do that? Is it really just schmoozing and who you know? What are the keys to really move up in your career and really stake your claim to shatter the glass ceiling? Yeah.
Sure. When I think of what Ursula Burns has done, former CEO of Xerox and others like that, the lady who was hired by Mark Cuban to run, I'm not a basketball player, so I forgot the team that Mark Cuban
I think
had.
it's
Mavericks.
Mavericks,
That was
maybe.
Mavericks. Yes. When I think about just a metaphorical example of these, I think a few things they did. I think one, for sure, recognizing who is not for them and who is with them. We live in a real world. So recognizing that. Number two, or one and a half, is recognizing what are the landmines? What are the situations that I don't have to create? And what are the ones that I will battle for? That is number two. Number three, and actually this maybe should be number one, you better be darn good at who you are and what you do. Me as a speaker, I know coming in the room, due to a variety of things, maybe there's a, no pun intended, black mark against me. Maybe there is. So my job as a host, and you see me, Coach Cass, to be the best host I can. So that's off the table. There's no question will Ramon crush the stage. Not even a question. He absolutely will. So that's three, being the best you are. Then number four, build relationships. Build allies. Get to know people one-to-one. Ladies, if you're doing that on a consistent basis, you're the best you can. You're building relationships. You're building allies. You know who's not for you, and you're understanding the corporate game. Was it Demi Moore or something did that in Men of Honor, whatever movie it was, these movies we see? Even though they're movies, they have some relevancy, Coach Cass. Know how to play the game. Because if you don't know how to play the game, as we've heard from a mutual friend, right? Play chess, not checkers.
Right.
That alone is not because you're a lady, not because they don't like your hair, not because they don't like your shirt. No, you just don't know how to play the game, lady. That's it. That's on you. So also learn how to play the game and where you're at.
Ooh, learn how to play the game. So, Ramon, this comes into a really touchy subject that I was talking to one of our members of the Real Love Network. So she's in a relationship, and her boyfriend and her were, at church, and, she saw a coworker, male coworker, and he says, "Oh, we should get together for some coffee." And her boyfriend didn't really like that, right? And I started to ask her, well, how often do you go to lunch with men at work? And she said, well, maybe, once a month or so. But, is it really a problem? And I took it back to Andy. And Andy said, Cass, back in the day, I feel like you were dang near disrespectful, right? Like you'd be out to lunch with whoever and whatever. And I got to know who you were and what that was. But, most men don't really go for that. So when we're talking about building relationship, Ramon, in a corporate setting, in a business setting, like how do you do that? Because it's so touchy, right? Like going to lunch, you're a married man, going to lunch with a single female, or you're a single female, just going to lunch with a single male, and all the implications at work that come with that. Like, how do you delicately do that dance? Like, what does that look like? Because, I read the book, Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, right? So it's like you're supposed to be going to lunch with everybody. If you're a door, we're lunching it. Okay, we're gonna sit and eat. But how do you really build those relationships platonically and respectfully is really the question that's coming up for me.
Yeah. This is a woo. Are we gonna go to part 2 right now? Like, can we just cut this episode right here? We have a commercial now. Coach Cass, I love it. What a spicy question. I love it. So here's my 2 cents of advice, but I'd love to know your input. I'll go 3 or 4 different ways. I think one, real life example, I was asked by a mutual friend, nice lady, could have been anybody that we know, Coach Cass, a nice person. She's like, hey, Ramon, event's over, whatever, we want to hang out, let's go out, do whatever we're gonna do. I declined nicely. She didn't even know I was declining. Just like, you know what? Thanks so much. Plane's coming soon. Got to catch Uber. Got stuff to do. No problem. I just didn't feel that was what I should do with her at the moment. That's it. And if she ever hears it, no meant no harm. But it was because of what you just gave the example. Just, hanging out, spend a few hours in a town. Probably shouldn't do that. Nothing bad. Somebody else may do it, but not me. So that's one. And not with her. So that was one. Number 2. You definitely got to meet people, going on playing the game, building relationships. Do you have to have a full wine and lobster and shrimp and butter with warm bread at an Italian restaurant on the 39th floor of Dubai? You know what I'm saying? Could you do a 20-minute coffee or a tea? I get it. So, could you, and to make that compromise, number 2. Number 3, should you meet in the lobby? Should you meet in your office? Should you meet at some kind of other location, as it were? Number 4, even though there's good to have meetings one-on-one for sure, can you say, listen, Coach Cass, love to meet up with you. Let's do that. Let's bring Jimmy and let's bring Becky. Let's invite them in and let's do that. So those are 4 things that's helpful, but I must say nothing's clear cut unless it is. And I think understand your relationship. And to the example you gave, Coach Cass, I wouldn't cross that line. I'm sure this is all your expertise, but I wouldn't do that to another lady. I get it, but sometimes you just got to read the room. So, to the
Okay,
other
so
person.
so what I heard is you're not going to lunch just you one-on-one with a female.
No, what you heard is I would be cautious about it and very strategic. For example, one of my brand sponsors, no problem. That to me, that's not a question. Knowing the vibe and all this
Yeah.
openly. Hey, listen, from I'll say Dell. Dell's marketing's not coming. Let's have a lunch or a tea. Can I meet up? Let's meet up 20, 25 minutes. I feel great. But somebody I'm working with, rolling with all the time, we don't really need to meet. I probably wouldn't, every week, because then I know my heart. I know myself. But it's not a rule. It's just some guardrails to.
Guardrails. So what I normally would say is like you don't want to open the window. You don't want to put a crack in the window. And I saw many office romances start when I was working in corporate America so easily just over lunch. Like, hey, I'm gonna grab something. Want to come? Right? And they're sitting there talking about their woes, and you end up talking about your spouse, and you end up talking about your problems and all of that stuff. And I remember when Andy and I were going through the love deck, the 60 questions to ask before choosing the one. I actually do the love deck with my husband. And one of the questions was, what do you define as cheating? And he said, that you go to someone else to talk about what's really bothering you before you come to me. Right. And I was just like, ooh. And this was just the other day, right? Like we are constantly learning new things. And I was just like, okay. And that's exactly what ends up happening in those office romances where the night before something went wrong at home. So then you go and confide in this coworker and then it's a whole situation. So I'm definitely here for the guardrails and here for not opening cracks in the window. But one thing I realize is that for some instances, it works out because, for me as a married woman, my husband knows the other person and I'm very, very intentional about that, right? So any men that I'm seeking to be friends with, I make sure that I introduce Andy and then there's some level of respect there. It's kind of like a vetting system we got going. So now for my ladies, okay, you love it? Yeah.
And I think two things I'll add. We as men and women and humans, we should know, reasonable people, we should know our vibes. We should know feeling what's up when you feel something. And that's why at times, very few times, not a lot, but I've declined things just with, and I'll say with her as an example, nice lady, just either my own heart or other things. I was like, we've chatted in the hallway for 10, 15 minutes. We probably don't need to walk down the block at 3 a.m. for the next 4 hours. I'm exaggerating,
right?
And then number two, I will do the other side going back. Business meeting, me and many of our mutual friends, right, Coach Cass? I have no problem. 20, 30-minute meeting, as you said, strategic, intentional. Listen, let's meet up, talk about this. We're going to do business, do this. Got it. But I like how you said the opposite, just repeating what you said. When it starts getting to, oh my God, I take my wife did. See, now you've crossed. But yeah, I would meet with any business partner, solo, lobby, hallway, tea, coffee. But every day for caviar, probably not.
That's not gonna work out. I love it. I love it. There's so many intricacies. There's levels to this. So now when you start to doubt yourself in your zone of genius and you're walking through life, like do you have any reminders? Like what is a part of your daily morning routine that helps you to be so high energy and so positive no matter what's going on in your life? Because, sometimes I told you before I got on here, right? My curls ain't popping. My lipstick ain't doing what I wanted to do. I don't feel that fabulous right now, but I'm going to do anyway because we have a commitment and there's a message from you that I would love to share with my audience. And you're like, listen, I'm amazing, and I don't think you've ever been non-amazing. And I don't think it's a front because, there's some folks that's like, I'm blessed and highly favored. And you're like, all right. But there's a genuineness about you. So where do you believe that comes from? And I'd love for you to share because so many of us are seeking to tweak our daily routine. I understand we got to pray and drink water, but what is it that's a part of what you do that make you you?
I think two or three things, Coach Cass, and thank you for the question about what makes me me and how I move forward. I think one, some people run towards something, but firstly for me, I'm running away. You asked, Coach Cass, I'm going to say it. I'm running away from suicidal thoughts and depression. I'm running away from it. That's part of my background. I mean, I'm a regular guy. You wouldn't know unless you asked. Yeah. But I've had dark periods in my life with suicidal thoughts and depression, very dark. So for me, I'm reminded, Ramon, if you don't want to be in there and do some crazy nonsense, and it could be just yesterday, it could be just today where I felt it, where, had to argue with my wife or daughter, or somebody snapped at me, and you sit there in your office, so I can go further, but I'll pause there, meaning my point is, so I'm running away from that. I don't want that period of my life to ever come back. So this works for me, I read my Bible, I pray, I work out, do my stretches, push-ups, I drink a cup of Cafe Bustelo. I got some habits. I don't know which one of them are helping me, but I do my habits on that. That's one. What I'm running towards, Coach Cass, and again, at the age of 51, I'm only, I think, honing in onto this now that, as one of my friends said, or an African proverb, I think she quotes it, if I don't win, who loses? So I know that what I'm doing, Coach Cass, you have a community. I have a community. If Ramon doesn't show up, Ramon shuts down for 2 weeks and stays in bed and crawls into bed, there's some 17-year-old boy. There's a 25-year-old young man who's going to say, Ramon, or Uncle Ramon, what's up? What's wrong with you? Not that I have to be fake, but it's like any military leader, and I'm not that. But I hope you get the analogy that if I don't show up, do I owe it really? That's a debate with sports figures, but you took the mantle, Coach Cass. You took the mantle, Ramon. We are figures. There are people who count on us. So that's number two. And so if I've answered the question, I think that's my morning routine. That's what drives me, what I'm running away from, what I'm running away to be there to support. And I must say, three, I'll go back to relationships, just a tagline on me and my wife. Coach Cass, I want to be married. I love my wife. I am a healthy, regular male, as bad or sinful and as good as any other man. But I want to be married. So with that context, I just felt to add that drives me when I'm traveling, when I'm alone, when there's opportunity, just if that makes sense what I'm adding into it. And like a Joseph scenario, and God, that for me, that's a big part of that. So I hope that's helpful for somebody out there.
That's super helpful because, when individuals see folks like you and I and, on the internet, everything's roses and happiness and joy and you're so great, so for you to be transparent enough to say, I have dealt with and deal with these thoughts, right? And I was talking to my therapist earlier, right? And I was just like, when are you fully healed? Like when is there a switch of when the healing is just done? Because I know many people are tired of doing the work, right? Whatever that work is, therapy, scripture, groups, personal development, reading, like there's so many things that we do. Then now you got to exercise. I love that you put the stretches, you highlighted stretches. I'm learning that it's very important to stretch or you're just going to break right in half.
And I do it because it feels good. I don't know the science behind it, but push-ups or gym or some version of walking, an intentional stretch. Go ahead.
But that stretch, not everybody's intentional with the stretch though. I just joined a whole stretching place to make sure that I stretched. Okay. So when we start to think and look at, this journey called life and the intentionality about what are you running from and what are you running towards, it's just so beautiful. So for me, it's like the feeling of rejection, right? And the am I enough, right? So that's like those are those thoughts, right? Like those are those thoughts that pop up and then being able to overcome them to say, yes, your Father up in heaven says you are more than enough, right? And if they reject you, someone else accepts you, but then you are accepted by God, so there's things that we can be at the base and battle on a daily or monthly or quarterly or annual basis. It just pops up whenever it feels like. I have a girlfriend that said that she was delivered from like that spirit of rejection. And she told her pastor that she wanted to share it at the church. And then that Sunday, he didn't call on her, right?
I don't mean to laugh.
How ironic, right? Like, hey, I'm delivered from the spirit of rejection. Oh, he didn't call on me. He didn't call on me. Am I delivered? Right?
Yeah. That's funny.
So I just love the humanness of being able to share that we all have things that we are seeking to go away from and strive towards. And none of us are perfect, but being able to deal with it on a daily basis and setting up your schedule and setting up your life to be able to know what works.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And Coach Cass, one other thing I'll add, and I think you have this, I believe you do, is a community. And I'm not saying that's because I'm with Coach Cass. A
Yeah.
trusted community, moderated or not, but a community, because that's one thing I didn't realize that helps me, Coach Cass.
Yeah.
But you and I are in a co-community together where we cheer and win. So we don't do it all crazy, like, oh my God, you did. No, we do it genuinely. That's the
Yeah.
only place I go to do. That's one. And then I have a group of two other groups with men in it. Two different types of men. Sounds weird, but two different demographics and types. The interview is going fine until this moment. No, but I have two different groups of men, and we get together on a regular basis. And I've been in one for, I think, like, started probably during the pandemic, maybe 4 years or so. So I just encourage the woman out there who's alone and you're struggling, get with others, trusted others who can help you. And I know Coach Cass can help with that for sure.
Ramon, that's so good, right? So when I start to think about community, about 11 years, Andy and I are coming up on 10 years married. So we were engaged for maybe 1 or 2 before that. So about 12 years ago, when Andy and I were dating, right? So dating, I started to look around and see that, we didn't have many married friends or people that were with marriage, right? Divorcees, people single, living the life. And I started to pray about, like, who do we surround ourselves with? What is the community that we desire to be in? And I really wanted folks that were resolute about their marriage, right? Like, you not leaving, right? We gonna work this sucker out. And through the years, we literally just came up on our 10-year anniversary with that group, where during the pandemic, we became so regimented. Like every 2 weeks, we meet to do a Bible study, right?
We
and
have
all
one
around
like that too, yeah.
relationship and marriage, right? And what we realized is when we strayed away from the marriage Bible studies, our marriages would suffer. So many times people are like, oh, shouldn't you know that by now? Listen, we need reminders of how to act right? And we just went to Aruba last November, and it was just so beautiful to celebrate love in our communities, which is why we even decided to do this ultimate couples retreat that we have coming up, because we realized that not many people are surrounded with people that love their spouses and want their marriages to, make it last forever, right? They want to make it last forever and to have vacations and enjoy each other's company and be with other couples that do that, right? Like that part, like, can we all do that together? And then with the Real Love Network, how I even started that is I realized after I was now in a loving, fulfilling relationship, the madness I was going through by myself and how I thought I was crazy and I thought I was the only one, and how girlfriends can give really bad advice sometimes. So to create a community where you have experts at the helm to be able to pour into you and steer you in the right directions, the stuff your mama didn't teach you, but then also be vulnerable enough to share the ups and the downs. Like, we celebrate it all. It really is a support system. And I know there's a lot of things out there, Ramon, where people are like, oh, do this course, take this checklist. But life and love is something that goes hand in hand. So I'm with you in terms of community. It has saved me time and time again. And that's exactly why I even started my communities and why I even do what I do. So, yeah.
I love it. No, I encourage everybody, please join Coach. And she doesn't have to say it, but you join Coach Cass's community. It will change your life. There is no reason to be alone. Farmer says, you don't have to be lonely at farmersonly.well. In this case, you don't have to be lonely with Coach Cass. I can't even rhyme it. Y'all know what I'm saying.
You don't at all. And we have our live event coming up in October, Wanted Woman Live. Now, that is a time where folks find their tribe, and it's just good. It's like a family reunion. It's really nice. And Ramon and I, we're a part of something with business that feels the same. So it's just good, right? So operating in your zone of genius, being able to be in the right community, having the correct routine that pours into and identifying what you're seeking to run from. Like, what are you walking away from and what are you walking towards? Yeah. Just that awareness piece for me is life-changing. Being able to operate in your zone of genius. Man, Ramon, this is just good. This is just so
Well, I'm
good.
glad to be here with you. And you're right about the running away. I just add one more thing. Friends of mine, I'm assuming you have friends and others who like this, but I have friends of mine who've been addicted to drugs and some serious jacked up lives. We all have our jacked up lives, but they've shared openly about some real horrors they've been through. And he's like, Ramon, that's why I do like 1,000 sit-ups a day, or that's why I drink all this water. I'm like, yes, it's healthy now. And he's been sober for 20 years or 50 years. But he's like, no, Ramon, I don't want to be like that. So I need to fill my body with something. And I'm like, oh, that's why you run like 40 miles a day. Yeah, that's why. So Back to you, Coach Cass.
I was so just talking about that. I love gummy worms,
Okay.
Ramon. Okay. I have a gummy worm addiction.
Okay.
And I was telling my daughter who's 7 yesterday in the car, Mommy's going to fast from gummy worms. And she said, "What does that mean?" I said, "Every time I think about gummy worms, every time I want to eat a gummy worm, every time I, want to reach for a gummy worm, I'm going to thank God for my life, for you, for everything that I have." And she was like, "Huh." She doesn't realize how often that is. I said, it is to help me strengthen my relationship with God. But that was just like a very short conversation. But to be able to understand what drives you or what you think about or what you think about too much, and be able to start to control what's happening in your life. It's a serious situation to become aware of what our things are that we battle with and say, I want to operate in my zone of genius. I want to be able to do what I love and get celebrated and paid for it. This is
It's a
just so
beautiful.
exciting. Yeah.
It is. And I'll share with you, Coach Cass. You said you love gummy worms. I'll tell you, may I share with you what my delicate pleasure is,
What
Coach
is your
Cass?
delicate pleasure?
Mrs. Smith's apple pie put in the oven at 400 degrees. And I like it so much. I get the whole apple pie, and I bought a special apple pie pan that is half of an apple pie pan. That's how maniacal I am. So I cut the apple pie in half frozen, put the one half back in the freezer. So I bake half an apple pie. And then I get Haagen-Dazs, not Breyers, not ShopRite, not Corner Store, not Pookie brand. No, Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream. And when the pie comes out, I wait about 7 minutes so it cools down a slight bit. Put that strawberry ice cream on top of the pie, and I eat it. Don't tell my wife too much. Sometimes I've eaten the whole half pie. That's me.
It's a problem. Now I want everyone to send me a message about what's your delicate pleasure. I'm here for it, okay? Because I've never heard that one. A half apple pie pan. I'm not a pie person. I like the crust, but the middle, So that's a serious with the strawberry ice cream.
Coach Cass, I didn't say strawberry. I said Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream. Get it right now.
The Haagen-Dazs has to come first.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've tasted other brands and just the strawberry. For me, I'm a little bougie. It just don't taste the same as Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream.
So, Ramon, I'd love for you to share with the audience, like, what do you do in your normal life to help people, and really, like, how can they find you in this atmosphere and in this world?
Sure. Two things. One, I'm a motivational keynote speaker. And so those who want me to be on their stage and keynote their events, MC their events, or do motivational keynote speaking with me and Coach Cass would be so cool. Definitely, I do that. You can see me at RamonRay.com. Also, I'm the publisher of my 5th or 6th startup, zoneofgenius.com, a publication similar to Inc., Entrepreneur, Business Insider, in that vein, with tips and insights for small business owners. So come on by and visit me at zoneofgenius.com or RamonRay.com.
Now, you also have a show. Hello.
I do. My show, The Rundown with Ramon, on USA Today Network, daily show where I go live at about 7 a.m. and then they carry it at 2 p.m. So it's a daily live show and growing. One of the highest shows on their network. Doesn't mean it has millions of people today, but it's growing. This world of where you do content, Coach Cass. I do content, but I'm happy. It's a daily show on a net with a name like that. That just makes me proud to be able to say it's on USA Today Networks. Pretty cool.
That's so amazing. Y'all, you don't understand. Ramon is just an absolute joy to be in his presence. And I just want to say thank you for joining me here to share just a little bit of your zone of genius. And I appreciate the insight that you've shared with this audience. And I pray that y'all really take something good from it, right? Like, how can you start to wake up and operate in your zone of genius? And what could that be like? So for me, love coaching is my zone of genius. Like, that's my happy place. Like, I enjoy doing it, being able to really support women in love, right? It's a thing. It really is a thing. And here goes Ava, my 7-year-old, asked me last week, Ramon, listen to this. She goes, "Mommy, can you help me find love?"
Ooh.
I said, when you turn 30, girl, maybe 28, right? So you can't get married till you're 30. We'll start looking around 28. But in the meantime, you just watch and see, right? Watch and see how they turn out.
Which is a big part of it.
Just watch and see. Take a step back. Watch and see, because you just never know. What you see now may not be what you see later. So let's just watch and see.
That part.
Hi. So Ramon, thank you so much for joining me on The Love Lens. And for all of you tuning in, make sure that if you love this episode, comment in the chat. Make sure that you show some love. Share it, like it, save it, replay it, all that good stuff. And I'll see y'all next week. Keep loving, keep laughing, keep living. See y'all later. Bye.
So we are trying out the love deck. So let's just do random. I like this one. I like that. That one.
Wanted Woman Love Deck. Y'all, this about to be good. So we played with these ones already, and they were good. They was like right on the money. They was good. On one side, it has affirmations. On the other side, it has like a question. So we got to answer the question. So he going to read the affirmation part, and then on the other side, it's going to have a question.
The affirmation part is, I embrace. Oh, wow.
That's a good one.
I have these wanted woman cards from Coach Cass, our good dear friend, and she made these wanted woman cards. And I am a wanted woman by you.
Let's get that right.
Right, yeah. Right. So we're gonna read just like a little question and answer.
Okay.
All right, so
good.
this is one of her cards. It says, what is your favorite family tradition?
Our family tradition, our favorite family tradition is to go to church on Sunday.
That's true.
What is your favorite dance move?
My favorite, like right now, my favorite dance move?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see. Show me what you're working with.
All right, let me show you. All right. Ow. Ow. Yeah.
That is the favorite.
Ah, that's okay. You've been seeing this forever, right? Ow. So yeah, you probably have. Yeah, that was the move that caught your attention. What you talking about?